Kia ora koutou, Markie here in the mobile studio. Just showing you the sky, let's show you the sea, let's show you my bonnet, or my hood if you're American. So, I want to do a video today about, it's an anecdotal one, a fireside chat. Okay, so as I mentioned in previous videos, the latest news from YouTube is that the videos that are becoming more popular are the ones that are a little bit more personal, where people are kind of sharing something of themselves rather than the kind of the AI presentations, which I think people are getting a little bit sick of. It's like AI narration is it's good, but it's not that good, is it? It's not quite there yet. It's a little bit like Google Maps or Google, you know, for the directions. You know, it's full of glitches, and you know, little mispronunciations, and not the syntax, because that's not right, is it? The way the emphasis isn't always correct. And I watched something the other day, or listened to something the other day. It was actually The Shining, the novel being narrated by an AI version of Jack Nicholson, which you think would be good, Jack Nicholson reading The Shining. So it was a very good rendition of his voice, but the emphasis was all wrong. It was like, you know, Jack Nicholson had suddenly unlearned everything about acting and narration, and was just kind of, just lost it really. Yeah, that's the thing. So anyway, what I'm trying to say in a roundabout kind of way is that this channel is a kind of rambling fireside chat of a channel, and it's not to everyone's style, but it does seem like YouTube are kind of coming around to this style of video, which would be good for me, but it might be necessary for everyone. If it's not for you, let's part as friends. Don't be leaving comments like, when will this guy get to the point? Because the whole point is that it's a kind of a fireside ramble, and the tangents and the diversions are the best bit. I always say they are the raisins in the muesli. Okay, so, but what I want to talk about is is something silly that I did many years ago. Silly but fun, silly in a good way, not, you know, not crime or, you know, something harmful. There is in a place called Babbacombe in Torbay, which is down in South Devon, an attraction called the Model Village. So it's not a village that's perfect. It's not the model village. It's not like the new model army. It's a miniature village, and I love things like that. They just absolutely, you know, fascinate me. I'm not sure how long it's been around, but it's an established attraction, and it's great. If you get the chance to go there, I would recommend it. I don't get a cut or, you know, a royalty or anything like that if you go to the model village, but if you like that kind of thing, you know, you will have a good time. There are numerous model villages in different places, aren't there, and some are better than others, but this one is a doozy. It's a real doozy. Now, first tangent, Babbacombe, it's like a suburb of, so Torquay, I suppose Torquay, and it's a little bit like Plymouth. So Plymouth is made up of places that were originally different towns, and then it became a bigger conurbation and it joined them all together. A bit like London, really. It's like all the different parts of London were originally little villages, and then they all got connected together, didn't they? So it's like Highgate, where the cemetery is. That was actually built deliberately. The cemetery was deliberately placed there to be out of London. But when you go there now, you're kind of surrounded by buildings, and, you know, it just feels like another part of London. So in Devon, both Plymouth and Torquay are both kind of places where you've got lots of separate towns, but they're all squidged in together, and there's no gap between them. So you've got Paynton, and which is a big one, and then you've got Torquay itself, which used to be posh and elegant and very kind of Agatha Christie-esque, but is now quite rough in lots of ways. They actually have vigilantes on the streets at night to protect people, dressed as superheroes. And then you got all these other different kind of parts. And Babacombe is one of those. So Babacombe would have originally been a village. And it's the only place I've ever been to where I've seen in a post office shop window, you know, where you have notices, you know, people, it still happens, doesn't it? It's kind of quite old-fashioned now, isn't it? Because everything's online these days. But where you want to advertise something, so you've got a chest of drawers that you want to sell, or you're looking for somebody to do dog walking or something like that. But actual sex workers advertising on little notices in the post office window, which kind of, you know, always sort of struck me as unusual. And I always think of that with Babacombe. And the other thing about Babacombe is it was some devotees of Sai Baba, the guru who's long died out, and is, you know, is under the shadow of allegations as well. I don't know whether they're true or not, but they're serious allegations. But Sai Baba, and lots of people followed Sai Baba, and there are some Sai Baba devotees who discovered, I know this by kind of like a third party thing, discovered the name of the place and thought, oh, we must live there because it's named after Sai Baba. And I believe they did. They moved there for that very reason. I don't know if they availed themselves of the services of the sex worker from the post office window. They have no reason to suggest that they did, but just linking those things together. So in Babacombe, you've got the model village. You've also got another attraction. I can't remember the name of it, and I think it's under the same ownership. And it's kind of like a tallish building that you go into, and then it kind of recreates, even though it's a small building, it kind of recreates streets and kind of outdoor scenes kind of quite well. And then in the upper floor, when I went there last, this is years ago, I remember there being a little kind of exhibition where there were all these kind of like different fairy castles, all kind of one behind the other, and I love all that. You know what I would like to do more than almost anything is just make model castles. I've got a fascination with castle architecture. I like making miniature models. I would like to do nothing more than make model castles, but circumstances are that I'm not able to do that right now. So there we go. If you take pity on me and you want me to make model castles and stop making videos, then you can support me financially in a range of ways, which are listed in the description box below. And recently I've just been monetized, so you can do stuff like super thanks and things now, which I don't even fully understand yet. I think you've got to be live to do that, but there's ways that you can give me a donation. If you are an eccentric billionaire and you want to change my life and fulfill my dream of just being able to make model castles, then please send me a big donation. That would be much appreciated. Mind you, I would never want to just make model castles. I'm still very committed to helping people with retroactive jealousy and other issues, but mainly the retroactive jealousy. So I'd still do that. Actually, I wouldn't 100% just make castles. I would 50% castles, 50% helping people with retroactive jealousy. And then I'll probably make videos about the castles. So, Babacombe, yeah, a brilliant model village. And another little diversion, another little raisin in the muesli is that my best friend John, I wanted to introduce him to Gwendoline. When Gwendoline and I first got together, I wanted to introduce the two of them when we were down that area. And I commented to John afterwards that Gwendoline's very small. You know, she's petite, and he said he didn't remember her being that small. And I said, well, we met in the model village, so she wouldn't have appeared that small, would she? She would have appeared. So if you're diminutive and you're on a date or something like that, and you don't want to appear so diminutive, so small, top tip: meet your date in the model village, and then you'll look larger. So the model village, I haven't been there for a long time. It's a great attraction. It's quite big, you know. There's quite a lot to it, and there's little kind of other little kind of displays and exhibitions and dioramas and things there as well. But it's got like a city centre section, and it's got kind of cottages. And when I last went there, a recent addition was a medieval castle that was under siege, and had a dragon clinging onto one of the towers that actually breathed fire, and they actually had it kind of rigged up so that it would breathe fire on quite a regular basis as you watched. And it's full of humor. There's lots of little quirky things. So for example, there's a cottage and there's a window cleaner up a ladder cleaning the windows, and inside the building is a naked woman. so the window cleaner is getting an eyeful and things like that. Lots of little quirky little bits like that. And it's also got, and this is where it's coming to the point of the video, though we're going to be a while yet, so get comfortable. They have Stonehenge, a recreation of Stonehenge. Now, me being a druid, although I'm not really an active druid these days, you can, you can take the boy out of the druid, but you can't take the druid out of the, no, it doesn't make sense, does it? That only applies to places. Now, sorry, there's a car starting up next to me, so there will be a noise. So I might just pause for a second and let this car pull away. Although he's taking his little time, they always do, don't they, when you watch pot never boils and all that. So no, I won't pause, I'll just carry on. So they got this model of Stonehenge. So I'm a druid. Now, I talked about this a little bit in other videos. Druidry is an interesting thing. It's not necessarily what you think it is. There's a very good video which I watched recently by Professor Ronald Hutton, talking about modern druids, and it's on YouTube, and it's part of the Gresham College series. So they have a channel with a series of lectures, and Professor Ronald Hutton has done quite a few, and he's an excellent speaker. He's very funny, he's very erudite, he really knows his stuff, and presents very, very clearly, and he's also very funny as well, and presents in quite a quirky way. And he said, I think there are 4 different kind of conceptions of a druid, or types of druid, and I won't go into the content of that here, but if you want to know what a druid really is, if you're thinking, what do you mean by a druid, Markie, have a watch of that, and that will give you a flavour. Now, I would fall into the category of, probably more than anything, a national druid, in that it's like a kind of a cultural thing. It's a way of celebrating culture. So particularly in Wales, there's a druid of an archdruid of the Welsh Eisteddfod, who one of the recent archdruids was actually the Archbishop of Canterbury at the time, Rowan Williams, and it's all about a celebration of kind of Welshness and culture and poetry and language and stuff like that. So that's the kind of, and it's spiritual as well, but not religious. For some people, Druidry is a religion, and that's all fine and good. I'm not criticizing that at all. I wouldn't say it was a religion for me, but it is a spiritual path. And one of the things about Druidry is that you can follow any religion, or no religion. You can be atheistic, or just agnostic, and you can also be a druid, because it's an approach to spirituality and creation and stuff like that. And there's no dogma, there's no kind of liturgy, there's nothing that you're supposed to believe when you become a druid. So different druids will believe different things, and some will believe nothing. So it's always something that is something that I've been involved with for a long time. And there's a particular strand of druidry which is the bardic tradition, which involves poetry, and that's foremost the part that I've been involved in. I've done videos about that, so I won't go any further into that. But needless to say, I'm a druid. I belong to a couple of druid orders, and I thought, when I saw the Stonehenge, I thought, well, they should have druids. It's no good having Stonehenge without druids, is it? So, and of course, the tradition is that there was always a druid gathering summer solstice at dawn at Stonehenge. Now, of course, that's changed over the years, because Stonehenge has become a bit of a battleground, because there was a free festival there for a number of years, and then English Heritage, who look after the site, didn't want that to happen, because they thought it was getting out of hand. you know, and drugs and sex and rock and roll and all the terrible things. So they closed it, and then you had things like the Battle of the Beanfield took place. I don't know if you remember that. The Levellers wrote a song about that. And it became a bit of a war zone. A lot of sacred sites do become war zones, don't they? Like Kashmir is becoming a war zone again. And obviously, you know, the centre of, well, not the centre of Jerusalem. Which part of Jerusalem is it? Is it the west side of Jerusalem, I think, where the temple is, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock? You know, that's a battle site. So the more sacred somewhere is, the more it seems to be a battle site, and Stonehenge is no exception. So, but for the most part, there always was, you know, if you're British, you'd see on the news, you know, probably the last item on the news, you know, the little novelty item. It would be, you know, the Druids at Stonehenge, and there'd be a very enigmatic picture of, you know, Druid rituals, Druids all in the white robes. So this is where my ADHD comes in, is I get ideas. I'm an ideas man. I'm not always very good at following through on things, particularly not in the longer term, and particularly not when things get, you know, boring. But I have ideas, cheeky little ideas, and I thought, well, I could make some druids and sneak them in. so that's what I did. And I mean, I make things. I do a lot of craft and stuff like that. So I think I made about 4 in the end. One of them never made it there. I'll explain why. But the first one, I actually made it look like me, with the banner of the bardic chair and bardic Gorseth of Bath. So sorry, yeah, Bath, because Bath has Exeter, sorry, because I was the Bard of Bath and then I was the Bard of Exeter. So Exeter is a bardic chair. Watch my other video for the bardic chair, which of course is part of the Druid tradition. So and it has a kind of a logo, an emblem. So I created a Druid that's holding a banner of the Gorseth and the bardic chair of Exeter. It's in miniature, and I made him look a little bit like me. And I snuck in and stuck him in Stonehenge. Now, when I returned with this Druid that I made, I was I was a little bit of oh no moment, because I had misremembered the scale of the figures that they use in the model village. So my Druid figure was, you know, like a giant. You know, it was a Goliath of a Druid. So he's a bit too big. And then I snuck, I think, did I put a couple of Druids in? I think I put 2 in. I did a female Druid. And I think I did another one that was like a sword bearer, because swords are, you know, ritual items, and it was kind of inspired by King Arthur. I don't know if you've heard of King Arthur. He's a Druid who's the head of the loyal Arthurian war band, and he believes that he's a reincarnation of King Arthur. Very interesting guy, very interesting story. I've got a biography of him actually, which I've yet to read. I've met him once or twice, I think, not properly, not spoken to him properly, but he's you know, if you Google him, loads of stuff will come up, and some really interesting stories. So I made one that looked a bit like him, and then I made one that was like a herald that was blowing a horn. Now in Druidry, you know, the blowing of horns is part of the Druid tradition. So, and traditionally the horns that are blown by Druids are referred to as Dords, I believe, and there's also something called a Hurlus horn, if I pronounce that correctly. So that's the kind of thing. But that one never got as far as the museum, because I got busted, and I got busted in a really lovely way. Now, first of all, I engineered all this very carefully, and I had a friend who was a journalist who I tipped the wink to about this, what I was doing, and he did a story about it. on the day that I put the Druids in there, and his headline was something like Druids do a Banksy, or something. He compared it to Banksy in that, you know, it was kind of guerrilla art in a way, that I did it on the slide. So basically I didn't break into the museum or anything like the model village or anything like that. I just went, you know, paid me entrance fee, and while no one was looking, I, you know, just reached over and popped the figures in. So so he did an article, and then what happened, and then I popped in a few other times, and so I think I added about 3 Druids in, and I made them progressively smaller, but still not small enough because my memory of the scale wasn't good, or maybe I made them in advance, I can't remember. And then I had a reply from the manager of the model village, and I can't remember whether it was a personal reply or whether he replied through the press, like in an open letter, but he replied with a poem, which I thought was really good. So he totally got into the spirit of things. He replied in a poem, and he said, you know, he sort of said, you know, good one, kind of thing, nice one, but we can't just have people, you know, popping things, you know, sticking things in the model village. But what we'll do is we'll make some Druids and we'll put them in there, and that's exactly what they did. They did actually ask me for some guidance on that, which I think they completely ignored, because they did some Druids, and they did a little video. I think it's still available. It was on YouTube, and when they first did it, and they didn't animate it, but they voiced the individual characters and made a bit of a story out of it. You know, they were talking to each other and stuff like that, which is quite amusing. They did that quite well, as they do everything well, really, in the model village. But they didn't follow my advice. I did send them some sketches and some ideas, but they didn't follow them. And bizarrely, some of them have got kind of like shepherd's crooks, which I don't know quite what that's about. So Druids do use a variety of, you know, staffs are a common thing for Druids, and quite often people will, a traditional thing for Druids as well is like a staff with like a kind of a crescent moon shape on the top of it, or a sickle on the top of it, that all relate to certain, you know, Druidic traditions and historic writings and stuff like that. But they never they went a little bit wrong there somewhere, but they still look good, and it was just all great fun, really. It was a you know, a good laugh, and I love doing things. I love other people that do stuff like that. I like the concept of guerrilla art and guerrilla gardening and stuff like that, and I've done a few other things in the same vein. Some I can talk about and some I can't. Like I say, none of them are criminal or bad or anything, but you know, some I've done anonymously, and I want it to remain a mystery as to who it was that did them. But that was what happened with the Babbacombe model village, and as far as I'm aware, because I've been out of the UK for 7 years now. I've been in New Zealand, the land of the blue whales and the fur seals and various other things. There's people in the background now making a noise. What a liberty. So yeah, it's been a while since I've been there, but do check it out. I hope it's still there. I hope it's not closed or anything. That would be tragic, because it's a lovely place. Now, interestingly, there's another model village was one in Polperro, and it's a recreation of Polperro in miniature. And I went there because I love Polperro is lovely. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So Polperro is a Cornish, like a fishing village, and it's one narrow road that goes down to the port, which is generally, I think, closed to traffic, or it's close to traffic from a certain point, and then pedestrianised, or you can hire a horse and cart to take you down there. It's a very touristy place. And it's charming and lovely, you know. It's a great. So it's near Looe in Cornwall, so it's in the east of Cornwall on the south coast, and they've got a model village. And yeah, I think I went there twice. First time it was really, you know, it was really sort of quite dilapidated and quite kind of sad looking. And then I went there and a second time, because I recall, this is weird, this is like a kind of a Mandela effect. I swear I watched like one of these programs where people buy property. I don't know what is it, like location, and I swear it was up for sale and somebody was looking at it on one of these programs. I remember watching it. And I went there again, and the front of it all, and it was all dolled up. You know, it had been repainted and, you know, all shiny and new. And I thought, oh, you know, this has been revamped. So I thought I'll go in there again. And it was just as dilapidated, but the front, you know, all the frontage of it was all brand new and sparkly, but the houses inside were falling apart, and it was very unloved. And I asked them, and I said, you know, I mentioned about this program and about you under new ownership, and they said, oh no, we don't know nothing about that. So that was really odd. So maybe you know something about that. But I had a real temptation to. I thought, I wonder if I could take it over. I'd love to, you know, I'd love to do that up. But I mean, my modelling skills, they're quite. I mean, I ham things together really. I can make stuff and do craft stuff, but I do it all the wrong way. I use all the wrong materials. I make stuff out of things I shouldn't make it out of. Like, you know, I tend not, you know, just to do my own thing really, rather than, you know, finding out what other people would do and doing it properly. I kind of think, oh, I could make that out of, you know, wallpaper paste and cow manure. So I had this fantasy about taking over the place, which probably wouldn't have been a good idea really, but I would love to have given it some love, you know. And I thought it was really disingenuous really. They made the front of it look so smart and flashy to try and bring people in, and then the inside of it was all falling apart. I thought, that's bad, isn't it? That's not a good faith, you know. They're not coming from a good place doing that. So shame on them, or shame on whoever was there at the time. And the rain is coming down, which is probably a sign for me to stop talking about model villages. I've just switched my engine on to switch the wipers on, and in doing so my car starts to talk. So that if you heard a Japanese female voice, then it's not a ghostly apparition. It's the voice of the car as it switches on. So I hope you enjoyed that. And that was a bit of fun. There are photographs around of some of these druids. I can't remember where they are now. There is a website. I'll see what links and stuff I can scare up. But there's a few things I've done in this vein, you know, and a few things like old ancient traditions that I've revived, because I just thought somebody should, and it would be fun. So we'll share some more about that. I'm also going to talk some more about share some Druid anecdotes, particularly about a guy called Tim Sebastian, who was a not well known in the wider world, but was a legend in the Druid world, and was somebody that I had the privilege of spending, you know, quite a bit of time with. So I'm gonna at some point share some anecdotes about him. There's plenty of time, you know, there's a whole lifetime for all these videos. So I will join you again in another video, which may be about druidry, or maybe poetry, or it might feature seals, or it might be about retroactive jealousy, or mental health, or really serious controversial stuff, because we're no strangers to that, but we're also no strangers to fun stuff as well. But thank you for supporting us, we really appreciate it. Rangimarie.